What is up, YouTube family? Hope you're doing amazing. It is March 17th today. You know what that means? We're about 3 months out from the summer months, May, June, July. So a lot of us, including myself, are beginning our fat loss phases to get ready for the summer. If you're wondering why I'm out here on the turf with my shirt off, it's because we just did some outdoor cardio. So I'm doing cardio 6 times a week right now for my fat loss phase. We're gonna go into training, we're gonna go into cardio, we're gonna go into the 6 steps for sustainable fat loss. But oh God. But first we need to find shelter. I'm like, it is pouring. Now that we found shelter, we're gonna go into step 1 of 6 here, and that is to find your caloric deficit, right? When you hear people talk about fat loss, all we hear about is, find your deficit, find your deficit, find your deficit, right? So here's what I want you to do in order to find this. Don't stress it out, right? You gotta know how to do a bunch of calculations because everyone's different, right? Everyone has a different baseline of what they're eating. So for example, I want you to spend 1, maybe 2 weeks just eating normally. Don't change a thing. I know this can be hard to do because you're like, okay, now I'm making a difference in how I'm eating. Don't make a difference. Literally how you ate last week, eat the same thing as if you're not going to fat loss, as if you're not tracking macros. Just eat whatever and then practice tracking what you're eating into MyFitnessPal. Don't try to hit a specific goal, but just eat how you are, scan the label, enter it into this app called MyFitnessPal, which is, in my opinion, the best app to track your macros. It's a free app made by Under Armour. So go ahead and scan what you're eating, enter it in that app, and then take the average totals at the end of the week to see how much protein, carbs, and fats that you're eating throughout the day. So that way you have an average baseline amount of fats, proteins, carbs, and calories to see what your maintenance is. This is gonna be your baseline maintenance calories. Now, based on your body weight, if this baseline total amount of calories for maintenance is below your body weight times 14, your caloric maintenance is too low to have a healthy and sustainable fat loss. So this goes into number 2, and this is gonna be your macro calculation. So obviously I think for a lot of people that are watching this video, specifically because I know this because a lot of my clients that do join the program, specifically females, because we do work with a little bit more females right now, are under eating, right? Because they've spent so much time chronic dieting or are just unaware that they're not eating enough based around your goals. Obviously guys, when it comes to fat loss, you're going to be wanting to get in the gym and training. We'll get into that later, but probably everyone that's watching this video is going to be implementing some sort of weight training as well. So that's that much more important to make sure you're eating enough to replenish and recover those muscles effectively, okay? So when it comes to macro calculations, guys, let's focus on protein first. Protein is king. This is how you're going to recover in the gym properly, and there's so many more benefits to protein that I'm gonna go into, but I want you guys to take your lean body mass and times that by 1.2 to 1.6 to find the total amount of protein you should be eating. Chad, what's lean body mass? Okay, let's say you're 165 pounds. Let's say estimated, or maybe you do get body calipers or you have a reading, you're 10% body fat right now. Okay, so to see 10% of 165, that's gonna come out to 16.5 pounds of fat mass. Subtract that from 165 pounds of your body weight, and that's gonna come out to, I believe, 147.5 in lean body mass. Now that total, you wanna times by between 1.2 to 1.6. So since this individual is at 10% body fat and is a little bit leaner, I would put them closer to 1.6 times their body weight. And now that may seem like a lot of protein for this individual. I'll get into this later. But as a leaner individual, closer to 1.6. As a not so lean individual that's maybe plus 15, plus 20, plus 25% body fat, you would be more towards that 1.2 range. Now, for the individuals that are in that obese range, and this is 25% for male and 32% for female, it is not gonna be conducive for you to eat, if you're 300 pounds, 250 pounds, 250 grams of protein or 300 grams of protein, especially if you're above that percent body fat. You have enough energy storage right now to mobilize fat storage and to turn that into lean muscle tissue without eating so much calories, right? You can get away with eating in a bigger deficit since you have so much more extra energy to mobilize in a fat loss phase, okay? So again, the leaner you are, the more protein. The not so lean you are, the less protein you need. And I recommend staying between that 1.2 to 1.6 times your lean body mass. Now, fats and carbs are going to take care of the rest of it. Now, my recommendations for fat loss is to stay between 0.3 to 0.4 times your body weight in grams of fats and have carbs fill out the rest of those total calories. Like I said, your maintenance calories should be around your body weight times 14 at the least. You want to go ahead and subtract 250 to 500 calories from that caloric maintenance to find your caloric deficit. Guys, I know this is a lot of information. We're going to put as many visuals as we can on the screen here, so go back through, take some notes, and make sure you're doing this right. Now, at the end of the day, protein is going to have so many benefits for you, because not only is it the most thermogenic macronutrient, it literally has almost double the thermic effect as fats and carbs, meaning that you're going to spend, 30 to 50% extra calories burned to burn protein off, okay? So that's gonna play a huge role in helping you burn your metabolism faster, and also play a huge role in raising levels of NEAT. NEAT is non-exercise active thermogenesis. So when you're walking around, when you're like washing the dishes, when you're cleaning the house, you're gonna burn more calories than you so would if you were on a lower protein diet. Now, a lot of people are like, Chad, like, why should I need protein so high? Isn't that gonna harm like my liver and kidneys? Isn't that gonna turn to extra fat storage? And the answer is no. There's actually multiple studies proven that I'll actually link below in the description that show an individual's over a course of 1 to 2 years eating 2 times their body weight in the amount of protein compared to compared to a group that was eating 1 times their amount of body weight, and they had no fat mass. That was no extra fat mass and the same amount of lean muscle mass compared to 2 groups of those studies, both eating 1 times their body weight and 2 times their body weight. So extra protein is not going to do anything. That's a complete myth. If anything, it's going to benefit you, especially in the fat loss phase, because it's also the most satiating macro compared to the same amount of calories in carbs and fats and the same amount of calories in protein. Protein is going to be the most satiating and the most filling macronutrient. So if you're getting hungry, use protein to your advantage there. But you also don't want to have protein so high towards pulling away from carbs and fats, because carbs and fats are really, really important. Carbs being for your training performance and fats for overall hormonal support. Number 3 is going to be to measure your results. Guys, this is everything, right? Your starting macros only go so far if you're not measuring appropriately. Step on that scale at least 3 to 4 times a week. I'm someone that does it daily. My clients are someone that does it daily. I'm a firm believer that, hey, the more data, the more accurately you can adjust, okay? If you have a terrible relationship with the scale, this is something that you can work on. My quick tip is saying, hey, your fitness journey is not defined by what the scale says at all, okay? If you're seeing visible differences, if you're getting stronger in the gym, if you're feeling like you're putting on more muscle is always gonna outweigh the fat loss, which is why you're gonna see weird fluctuations, especially if you're newer to tracking macros, newer to gym structure. You're going to see a lot of fluctuations. What matters is the average of your weight dropping 1% of that body weight per week. What your body weight is right now, your goal should aim to lose about 1% of that body weight per week to set you up for a sustainable fat loss phase. So make sure that you're measuring those results. Let's say you go 1 week and you don't lose 1%, but you lose 0.5%. You're still on track. Don't drop your calories right away. I've made this mistake in the past where I wasn't really on pace of 1%. I was still losing weight, but I wasn't fully at 1%, so I kept dropping. What ended up happening? My metabolism slowed down way too fast. Guys, metabolic slowdown is something that you really just cannot get away from when you're dieting. Your metabolism is going to slow down. Overall, your hormones that facilitate fat loss are going to downregulate as you diet. That's just the truth. Dieting is just not the healthiest thing in the world unless you're way too high of a body fat percentage where you actually need to lose weight to be healthy. It's just not the healthiest thing in the world. So you want to make it the healthiest and most sustainable you possibly can. So stay between 0.5 to 1% of your body weight loss per week. If it's working, don't change your macros, right? Once you hit a plateau for 1 to 2 weeks straight and there's no weight loss, then you can start to adjust, and that goes into number 4. Number 4, that's adjusting, okay? And when you need to adjust here, you can either add in cardio, which I'm gonna go into. This is a tool that you can use. Personally, I'm doing 6 days a week of cardio right now because I don't want to adjust my food. I like my food higher where it's at. I'm really, really hungry right now, so I don't want to pull from food. I'd rather do extra cardio and I get extra steps in, which is why I got this treadmill to help me lose weight rather than pull from food. So the adjustments you should make is I really like making adjustments between 50 to 100 calories. I don't think you need to make too far of jumps and drop 200 calories at a time. It's really gonna be all based off the data, okay? Meet you in the middle, 100 calories. Pull usually from carbs, okay? I really do recommend keeping your fat and keeping your protein in a very, consistent spot throughout the deficit. This is one I've seen that's worked best, not only for protein from a satiety standpoint, nitrogen retention, strength retention, muscle retention, but also with fats, facilitating as much hormonal balance as you possibly can to facilitate more fat loss. I really would recommend pulling from carbs, even though carbs are going to be your main energy source for your performance in the gym. They're also going to they should take up, based off your macro balance, the majority of your macronutrients. It should be the highest percentage of calories should be coming from carbs, which is why you should pull down for them. As long as you're eating enough carbs to get yourself in a position to where you are properly filling your glycogen storage, you're going to be fine, right? Based off your body weight, I really don't think anyone should be below 120, 150, or even 180 grams of carbs per day, no matter what your macro balance is. So let's go on to number 5, and that's cardio and training. Now, a lot of people think that when you go into a deficit, like your training has to completely change, and that's just not true. It's just really not true at all. But fatigue management does matter a little bit more here. And guys, if you've heard me talk about training structure and RIR progression and RPE progression, you can go to previous videos that I made that go over proper training structure and how hard you should train. But fatigue management is something that you should take in consideration when you're in deficit. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit less energy because you're just eating less, okay? There's less energy and calories going within your body. You're burning more calories and you're in a deficit, so you're burning more than you eat. So you're going to lose a little bit of energy over time. So fatigue management is super important. It's really not going to be conducive for you to be training in those 12 to 30 rep ranges very, very often in a caloric deficit. If anything, you're going to feel yourself fatiguing out a little bit more than if you were in a surplus training between that 12 and 30 rep range. Now, when it comes to hypertrophy, I do believe that you need to be within that 5 to 30 rep range, but I will say that you will get a better benefit by training your compounds within 5 to 10 reps, by training most of your secondary movements and your tertiary movements between 6 and 15 reps, and using that lower end of the spectrum. This is going to help you maintain muscle mass a lot better and maintain strength a lot better as well. When it comes to cardio, guys, again, this is a tool, right? You don't need it, but again, if you're in a position right now to where you're feeling pretty hungry, you don't really want to drop food, but you've kind of hit that stall after 1 to 2 weeks, maybe let's bring in some cardio. I'm a firm advocate of low intensity steady state. I think it's the best to go ahead and manage your fatigue. If you're doing high intensity interval training, I did make a video on low intensity steady state versus high intensity interval training that we will link here as well. But at the end of the day, if you're doing high intensity interval, it's going to take a little bit more for you to recover. It's going to be more fatiguing on your muscles. So if you're training 6 times a week, very intense, and you're doing HIIT cardio 6 times a week, you're putting a lot of strenuous activity on your body that is going to cause a little bit of inflammation, and you're probably going to retain a little bit of water, and you're probably going to have a hard time recovering and losing fat, okay? At the end of the day, recovery should be a main priority, whether you're in a fat loss phase or a muscle gaining phase, but recovery is going to be a little bit harder when you're in a fat loss phase, considering that you're just eating a little bit less food, okay? You're in a caloric deficit. So I really do recommend low intensity, steady state. Keep things super simple, keep things very consistent. You can use either the treadmill, the Stairmaster, you can use a bike, you can use elliptical. I usually use the stairs over treadmill. I usually set people up on a 12 incline to a 15 incline to a 2.5 speed all the way up to a 3.5 speed, utilizing ranges from 15 minutes all the way up to 25 minutes. You really don't need to do plus 30 minutes of cardio. So start with 3 sessions once you bring it in, and then that's going to obviously raise your caloric expenditure and how much calories that you're burning per week. And if you still don't want to adjust food, maybe you can add a 4th session of 15 minutes. Maybe you can add in a 5th session of 15 minutes. Right now I'm doing 6 sessions. Oh my God, 6 sessions of 15 minutes a week. So this is all going to be based off your measurements. This is drawing back to number 3 here and measuring your progress and measuring your results and recording that data for yourself, so that way you know how to make those adjustments for yourself. Number 6 is have a plan for after. Guys, I'm going to tell you this right here, okay? None of you should be hardcore dieting past 90 days if you're not in a prep. That's the truth, okay? Now, take this from my perspective. When it comes to dieting, your feedback is very key here. If you feel yourself getting side effects of dieting 4 or 6 weeks in, pull back and bring yourself back to around maintenance for about 1 to 2 weeks, okay? We've been implementing this dieting structure for many of our clients, going like 4 weeks kind of with an aggressive pull, 1 to 2 weeks off maintenance, or if you're going 4 weeks and then 1 week on maintenance, back on 4 weeks of dieting, 1 week on maintenance to keep things slow and sustainable. I think that's the best way to sustain your fat loss and put you in a good place metabolically, hormonally, and even psychologically. There's a lot of psychological benefit to just pulling back to maintenance and health for a week and then diving back into that deficit. Maybe you can go 6 weeks in the diet and then 2 weeks off and 6 weeks on. I know personally that's what you're doing right now, right? That's what Haman's doing, and it's working incredible for him, and he's dropped already like 13 pounds. And so really, you can find different methods that work for you. If you can go the full amount of time without having to, bring calories back up, that's amazing, but it's all gonna be based off your adjustments, okay? So before we go into plan for after, let's go back to adjustments here quickly, because for example, if you're starting at 2,200 calories and you go to 2,000 like 4 weeks in, and then you go to 1,800 another 4 weeks in, so you're 8 weeks in, and then from 1,800 you go to 1,600, I really wouldn't recommend doing that, okay? Starting at 2,200 and going all the way to 1,600 is a pretty big drop. So you don't want to keep bringing calories down. If you notice that you're having to drop calories too fast, allow yourself to go back into maintenance periods. So rather than going to 2,200 to 2K, maybe you can go 2,200 to 2K, and then for that another 4 weeks, and let's say it stalls again. Okay, let's say weight loss stalls again. Let's actually, instead of actually going back down to 1,800 or to 1,700, maybe we go back up to 2,100 for a week and then pull down. Instead of 1,800, you can go to 2,100 and pull down to 1,900. So that way you don't need to make it too big of jumps, and you can make smaller increments in the adjustments that you're making for yourself calorically to sustain the fat loss and make it a lot easier on yourself and see a lot less side effects, have a lot more energy, feel a lot better for training, recover better. It's gonna be better for your metabolism, so it's not gonna slow down as much. So there's different methods that you can use, but I really am a firm believer in diet breaks as well. Refeeds are also super effective. I've covered this in previous videos as well. A refeed, for example, is going the whole week, and every other week or so, or every 3 weeks or so, you can literally pick one day to have a high day of like 2.5 times your current carb total. But again, guys, have a plan for after, okay? Really, you should never be dieting past 12 weeks aggressively without going back into a health phase. That is at least about 60% of the duration that you spent in the fat loss phase, 50 to 60%. Meaning, hey, let's say you finish up this 90-day fat loss phase, okay, and you go straight into it, right? Your fat loss was super effective. You really didn't have to adjust calories aggressively in a sense to where, everyone's different, right? The diet break and the maintenance works for some people, and for some people, they can just go 90 days straight and literally just honestly pull down 300 calories total because their weight loss was so effective and sustained, and maybe they used cardio instead of pulling things off. Fatigue wasn't bad, and they hit this point past 90 days. Let's say that they lost 25 pounds over that 90-day period. It's just not going to be conducive for them to continue dieting. Like I said, it's just really not healthy. No matter what your body fat percentage is, go back to a health phase, go back to a maintenance phase, raise your calories, enjoy your life, take a little bit more of an intuitive approach for, let's say you diet for 90 days. So for 45 days or 40 days, you go to maintenance, hang out for a little bit, and then you can make a choice. Then you can say, hey, you know what? I'm really happy with where I'm at physique-wise, so I'm gonna keep chilling at this maintenance phase. Or you're like, hey, I'm pretty lean. I can see my abs, I can see striations, I can see veins. Why don't I transition and carefully adding calories to go into a gaining phase? Or let's say you're still hanging on to some unwanted body fat. You know what? I've already lost 25 pounds. This is amazing. But after this maintenance phase, I'm gonna go back into a dieting phase again. No matter what, going back into post-diet maintenance is going to allow you to make those choices the best way possible. The last thing you want to do is end a deficit and then go right back into a surplus. You're going to gain way too much weight. Okay? The last thing you want to do is end a deficit and then push yourself down even more aggressively. That's where you get into the problem with chronic dieting, and that's going to have so many negative side effects and so many negative health benefits for you. Okay? So it's really based off the individual, based off the body composition, and based off the goal that you want to achieve. I know I talked about, the diet break method that only works for some people. It really is individualized to the client. So if you watched this video, I really do hope that you took some notes and you got amazing value from this. Now, at the end of the day, I can completely understand how all this information kind of can seem like information overload. So if you do want some help, go ahead and shoot me a DM on Instagram. My book is freaking open, so you can just shoot me an Instagram DM here. Or if you want some more personalized help when it comes to your dieting phase for the summer, your gaining phase, etc., you can go ahead and check out our website, beyondbuilttraining.com, down here below. Take 3-4 minutes to fill out our application to apply for the team, and then one of the persons from our team, including myself, could reach out, book a call with you, and see if you are fit with us and get this thing going. So again, I wish you the best if you are embarking on your journey, your fat loss journey for the summer. If you're watching this video, you probably are, and would love for the chance to help you out if you need it. But if anything, I want this video to help you out as much as I can. Go ahead and drop a like for it. Share it with a friend if they need to see this as well. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more informative videos like this. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.